Right. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Outside the Arc. Today I'm joined by again the two Shane. How are we doing, guys?
All good, Dylan.
All good, Dylan. Thanks.
A mad week for GA now, wasn't it? That was some week of football. I say Shane Brown
Yeah,
would be the happiest of the lot now today.
yeah. Still relieved from last weekend.
The heart was pumping throughout that. Well, I think that's where we'll start today's episode on. We're go straight into the review of Kerry versus Tyrone. Shane, you take floor in this one. Obviously, you were in Crow Park for it again. Take floor in this.
Yeah. I mean, what a game of football. Um, Game of the year so far, in my opinion. Um, just I suppose I'll start on Tyrone because they were absolutely outstanding. And to be honest, probably a bit unlucky not to come away with the result, but they were brilliant. Look, I suppose a lot of people wrote them off. Look, a lot of Kerry people were going up there confident, including myself. But as I said last week, we always go into a game against our own with a bit of trepidation. But they just they went to Crow Park and they decided to go at us. They didn't sit they didn't sit back at all. They played proper football, and it very nearly paid off for them. And look, then go to Kerry. And to just the Dylan Gainey and David Clifford show. Um, they were absolutely unbelievable, and thank God we had both of them on the field, or I think I'd be a lot more doom and gloom at the moment.
Yeah, I know they ran it tight, and I actually want to move this. Talk to Shane King. Want to this now? We were talking about refereeing decisions last week. You were defending the referee about the reporters. They haven't done. I'll be honest, they haven't done you much favors this week with some of the decisions in this game.
No, no, they haven't. But look, I'm very much a pro referee person myself. But look, there was a inconsistency in this game. To be fair, like yeah, you have to look at it from an objective point of view. Yeah, like just the inconsistency in I can't remember exactly now what happened, but there was it marks being called and then a foul and one was counted as a foul and not brought back for the mark or whatever, and there was 2 point scores that could have cost Tyrone the games. So look, it swings both ways. Look, the refereeing, I think there was a few, as I said, the inconsistency was the main thing in that, and I think Tyrone will be disappointed with it. We'll talk about the Dublin Galway game a little bit later as well. David Goff there, the centre of attention in that game. But yeah, just the inconsistency is just it is probably the most frustrating thing about it. But look, it's not easy being a referee. That's the only thing. The with the new rules coming in, there's so much a referee has to be aware of now. Not defending it completely, I still think, there has to be that level of consistency when a referee is out in the field. These are our best referees in the country, refereeing these top games. Look, it's as I said, it's a very hard thing to do to be a referee, but I just think the inconsistencies really did show in this game, and it's a hard one to defend this evening.
Yeah, I know, and let's not forget about that 45 call as well. I think a
Mm.
lot of people would argue the turning point.
Come in
Another
on the referee.
you can, of course.
Um, yeah, look, the 45 was the wrong decision, to be fair. But this thing that all the decisions been carried way is a load of crap. Um, I mean, just the Kerry supporters inside the stadium, especially in the last 15 minutes, were very frustrated with the ref and thought that there was some very questionable frees being given to Tyrone, which there was. Decisions went both ways. Con Kilpatrick could have got a black card. He pulled down Gavin White. And the incident of the 50-meter mark being brought forward, he stuck out his leg, which technically could be a black card as well. And also the last free that Tyrone got was never a free in a million years after Keith Evans's absolute wonder block down. The free to get it back within a point should not have been given. So it wasn't all one way like people are saying it was. I think people just don't like seeing Kerry winning, to be honest. And look, I know I'm a Kerry man, so I'm going to come across as biased, but that's just the way it is. The referee made horrendous decisions both ways. It was, look, I don't want to be giving out about refs, but sometimes I do. And look, the last day he was poor, to be honest. But look, it is a very tough job, as Shane said.
But I think as well, it's just the nature of the result in those close games. We end up talking about the referee, and if Kerry had won by 5 or 6 points, I don't think the referee would have been a talking point after the game. So it really is just the nature of these close games that refereeing decisions kind of come into focus. If you look at any game, not every referee is not going to get every decision right. But it's when it's those fine margins and those calls, whether it was a 45 or not, those narrow calls come into sharp focus after the game. And I think it's, as I said, the nature of the closeness of the game was probably why it's a talking point after the game. But as I said, there were decisions that went against both teams as well, both Kerry and Tyrone. But I suppose that's the way things go, and you kind of nearly have to deal with it on the field, and you can only manage your own game and play the whistle.
Yeah, because if we can wait away from the referee for a second, then we look at actual performance of the players. Shane, you mentioned it briefly in when I asked you how the game, what you thought of the game when you were there. Clifford and Dylan Gainey, unbelievable. Like, just a quick word on your thoughts on that whole of their individual performances.
Yeah, unbelievable with both of them. And I actually should have mentioned Shane Murphy as well. He was absolutely outstanding in goals. And I think as it stands, he is the all-star goalkeeper. I think next year we'll have two all-star goalies on our hands. But back so Shane Murphy was outstanding, and I think Jack said after the game that he took 30 kickouts and Kerry won 26 of them.
Yeah,
So
I was
that
just
just
about to
shows how
say, Jack O'Connor was singing his praises after the game. Shane Murphy.
that just shows how accurate his kickouts were, and he was getting them out very quickly as well. And back to Dylan and David, I mean, what can I say? Um, David Clifford scored 1-8, and I don't think people even took notice of it. That's how used we are to it. Um, and look, his two-fisted points were probably his most simple scores of the games, but they were the most crucial scores as well. And he just brushed past his man for both of those fisted points with ease, and they came at a crucial time for us. We needed both those scores, and I mean, Dylan Gainey just put on a shooting exhibition. And I think the stat of the championship is that Dylan Gainey has taken 17 shots and scored all 17 of them, scoring 21
That
points,
is
four
no
two-pointers.
That's outrageous. That. Yeah, because
And
every
just as
time.
well, on the Tyrone side, obviously, we have to mention Darren McCurry. I mean, again, an exhibition coming in off the bench in 10 points in 25 minutes. It's absolutely ridiculous stuff.
He was getting onto everything. He was unbelievable. He probably would have reason Tyrone was still in the game up to that point. So he couldn't be stopped. Both feet as well. Didn't matter who was on him. One person that came back, mentioned briefly, Gavin White. I thought he was fantastic in that game. The way he carried the ball up, his running it caused Tyrone big problems. His running up the field, his ball carrying.
Yeah, I should have mentioned him as well, actually. Again, brilliant. As he always is for us, he's Mr. Reliable at this stage for Kerry. Look, it goes without saying he's a fantastic footballer. He was man of the match in last year's All Ireland final for a reason. And look, just the stat from the last day is that I think he assisted a goal and 5 points, which is just incredible, really. And he had 29 possessions, I think. So again, a wonderful game. He brought a huge amount to Kerry's attack coming from the wing back position. He was absolutely fantastic. And it was great that we hit him to replace the injured Bruno Begley.
It was a great replacement. Great player to have back. Near looks like he's fully fit now as well. Massive player to have towards the end championship. And go on, Kerry, real quick before we leave them. Kerry championship to lose.
I'm not going to comment.
I'll go to the other neutral, Shane King. What do you think?
Probably. You could make that analysis. They're 2 games away from Sam Maguire. Dublin's their first stop. If Dublin have their shooting boots on, it'll be close. I don't know. I think Kerry have the quality, certainly. They're probably the best team on paper in the last 4 teams left. Is it Kerry's to lose? Probably, but if they're going to be stopped, I think it'll be in the semi-final against Dublin.
Yeah. I'm just going to say no disrespect to Mayo or Louth, because they're both in the semi-final for a reason, and one of them is going to be in the final on merit. But just being totally honest, I think Kerry Dublin is probably realistically the final.
Yeah.
And now moving on to we mentioned Dublin there. I think we'll move on to our next game, Dublin Galway. What were your thoughts? We'll start with Shane King on this one. Thoughts on Dublin and how they treated this game, going in as underdogs, up against it again, and they've once again shown up at Croke Park.
Yeah, it's remarkable, really. Dublin having an awful league, really struggling in Division 1, having a poor Leinster Championship, almost being beaten by Wicklow in the quarter-final stages. Some could argue it was a disaster that our own County of Westmeath bet them. And then coming into the All-Ireland series on the back of the Leinster final defeat in a poor league campaign without their manager and without Conor Callaghan. This championship was not looking good for Dublin. And losing to Louth then in that first round of the championship, and to think we're talking about them as All-Ireland contenders now in the Final Four really is remarkable. But look, they were fully deserved of their victory. The old guard for Dublin, has been central to their victory. The likes of Conor Callaghan, Kieran Kilkenny, Niall Scully, who was excellent at last weekend, Cormac Costello. These lads, the old guard from that 6-in-a-row team really are coming good, and having their manager Ger Brennan back as well has just been a boost for them. I suppose going into this game, I had Galway back to win it. Wasn't expecting Dublin to pull it out of the bag, but look, a 4-point win for them in the end, to their credit. And I think their accuracy in the first half, for me, showed signs that that it was going to be a repeat of that performance against Donegal, where they had a lot of wides, which I didn't think would get them over the line. But look, they had a brilliant second half. Conor Callaghan with the goal was excellent. I didn't see the game live. I was listening to Darren Frehill on RT Radio 1, an absolutely brilliant commentator. For us journalism students, I think we should be listening to his work. He's a brilliant commentator, and how he describes the game. I was nearly felt like I was watching it in the car, listening to him on the radio. But back to the game, I suppose. Yeah. Galway probably unlucky with refereeing decisions. Shane Walsh clearly dragged down for possibly, was it a penalty? But yeah, look, Galway felt aggrieved anyway from those decisions. But as I said earlier, you have to play the whistle, and I think Dublin just had that quality up front that I was surprised with that they had for this game, that just nudged them ahead to get them into the semi-finals. And I think Conor Callaghan and Niall Scully were central to that win for Dublin.
Jim Brown, what was your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, another cracker. Look, Dublin were brilliant again. Galway probably will be disappointed in their performance. But look, Dublin brought the intensity they needed. As Shane said, it looked at times like they were kicking it away, but they got over the line. Look, I think we have to mention Niall Scully. I mean, we talk about David Clifford and Dylan Ganey for Kerry. Niall Scully is Dublin's Player of the Year contender, definitely. He's been absolutely brilliant, and he was outstanding again the last day. Look, on the refereeing decisions, the Dublin penalty and the black card to Liam Silk was the correct decision. And John Maher's potential penalty was probably the right decision as well, to be honest, in my opinion. He was falling into him already. Look, Kieran Kilkenny did wrap his hands around him high, but John Maher had already been falling into him. I think it would have been a very soft penalty if it was given, to be honest. So, for a change, I'm actually going to agree with David Goss' decisions and say he was right.
It was a very controversial one then. A lot of people would disagree with you on them. Just give Dublin credit though, real quick, because I think, I know God, we're 6 points up, but I think Dublin deserved from the first half. They dominated. They deserved to win the game. I thought Dublin. Now the referee again, the decisions again very calling back for the mark. Could argue John Maher pen, sorry, should have got a pen, and obviously the black card then was. But I think Dublin earned the win. I thought they were fantastic. On the kick out, absolutely dominant. Shane, you brought it up there. A lot of wides. Going against Kerry, do you think they can afford to be kicking those wides like they have against Donegal and Galway there last week?
No, as I said, if Dublin have their shooting boots on, they can certainly put it up to Kerry. But at the other, if you preempt the game next or in 2 weeks' time, David Clifford and Geaney aren't going to be missing these shots. And when you get to this level, you have to be converting those shots, or it's going to cost you. And those opportunities are when you get a chance to shoot. You won't. There isn't many. So you have to be converting those. And if Dublin can, they certainly will put it up to Kerry next weekend. But given their past few performances, will they have that accuracy in 2 weeks' time? I don't know, but they certainly need it if they're going to beat Kerry.
You want to chip in any words on that, Shane?
Yeah, I agree. Dublin need to improve their shooting efficiency because Kerry will punish that if they don't. Dublin are going to have to probably have at least its 75-80% shooting accuracy, I think, next weekend to be able to win it. Look, Kerry are going to score over 25 points, being realistic. So Dublin need to be able to match that.
I think if we go back to what you said on Dylan Ganey, 17 shots, 17 scored, 21 points altogether. I think that shows in itself. You're dealing with a Kerry attack that will punish you. I thought Galway let them off the hook in the sense that they couldn't win a kick out. So they didn't really threaten the Dublin goal, especially in the first half. I thought Galway were lucky to not be 6 points down at half time. Kerry won't be the same kettle of fish with Kerry. And I think that if we're early predictions, no, we'll leave that last week. I think that could be a deciding factor come the 12th. Is it the game?
Yeah.
Come the 12th.
Look, Kerry are going to play completely differently to Galway as well. Galway slowed down nearly every attack. and Connor Gleeson took about 30 seconds for every kick out, at least. Um, Whereas Shane Murphy will get his kick out quick and Kerry will attack at pace and kick the ball. Galway slowed down every kick out. So that played into Dublin's hands as well last weekend. So they're going to be facing a completely different prospect next weekend, to be totally honest. Kerry and Galway's styles of play are very much contrasting.
And if we move on to the other side of the draw now, we have.
Sorry,
I think-
Dylan, before we move on, I just think we can't leave it without mentioning Paul Clancy that passed away there from Galway last week. He was a great footballer, and there was obviously a lovely moment silence for him there before the game. He was a great footballer, and we would have been familiar with him up here in Westmeath. He was over at Garrycastle for a year or two, and he had a great football man from Galway and did a lot for his county and his club, Mike Cullen. So a young man, very sad story there, but a great footballer, and may he rest in peace.
Yeah, well said, Shane. And as you said, a lovely minute silence and a lovely touch by Galway in forming the figure 10 on the pitch for the minute silence as well.
Yeah, condolences to the family. It was. I was just about to touch on that. It was a very nice tribute before the game. I think he was, and I might be mistaken saying this, but I think it was 1998 All Ireland winner for Galway. I might be mistaken saying that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And won. I think he won both of them. I think he was two-time winner.
Yeah, that it was the age. He was only in his 40s as well. I think when he passed away, it was like very tragic. Yeah, may he rest in peace. It's a reminder to us all, I think, that you have to. Life is short and it's precious. And we should all enjoy it whilst we have, and love your loved ones, because tomorrow could be the last. And it's very sad in this case. He's a very young lad. And may hope his family and all that will be okay come the end of it, because it's a very sad situation. Yeah, if we go to our next game, Louth Monaghan, I think in this one it's right. I think we might as well go on say about the red card. I think because start of the game. The red card for you, Shane. We'll start Shane King. Red card for you. No, we were talking about last day with Mead and Mayo off the ball. What was your thoughts on this one?
To be honest, I think probably was a red card. Any head-high challenge, it's going to be hard to argue against one. There was it 2 weeks ago we had the incident in Thurles, with the head-high tackle to the Clare player. Look, there was no real malicious intent with it, but by the letter of the law, and if you're looking at, we have to be careful with these tackles that are head high, and I think, in my opinion anyway, the correct card is played. But look, it nearly spurred on Louth. They weren't playing well up to that red card point, and then they nearly turned around the game after that, so it nearly worked in favour for Louth. But to answer your question, yeah, look, as I said, head high tackles, anything up above the neck is going to be a red. So probably, yeah, the right call was made, in my opinion.
Other Shane, you have any words to add to that?
Yeah, at the time I was like, that's very harsh, but having seen it back a few times, probably was, as Shane said, by the letter of the law, the correct decision by Sean Harrison. And I believe that it's come out this that that he broke his jaw from the challenge. I think I could be wrong, but I think I heard that anyways.
I haven't personally heard that now. with Gunther's house. I think I think I agree with Shane King on this one. Though it was high. I think the last day it was kind of shoulder height was soft. I don't think in Mead Mayo one it was a red. This time he what goes against him in my opinion is he I know he can't move because your man's running at him, but he kind of turns into him as well. If you know what I mean, and it does go high. I think it was I don't know if it was his elbow or it was his top of his shoulder, but he kind of leaned in like that. For the YouTube audience, you can see, but he kind of leaned in, and I think that's probably what goes against him, in my opinion. I did think it was a red card on this occasion, but as Shane did say, it spurred Loud on, and I think we could just talk about the resilience of 14 men. I mean, it was fantastic. Monaghan though, do you think they can be disappointed? They were very they looked out on their feet at times in the game. Can they be disappointed they didn't see it out get a victory against 14 men for 65 minutes?
Yeah, well, I suppose they're up against a 14-man team, but they were nearly like a 14-man team themselves without Rory Began. He has been sensational for them this year. He's been, we saw it against Westmeath. In the first half alone, he had 3 2-point frees, which inflicted great damage on Westmeath. His kickouts were central to Monaghan's success to this point, as was his height around the field. So, would Monaghan be disappointed not to see this game out? Possibly, but as I said, they're missing their main player. They're really probably a top Division 2 team without him. So, yeah, that's what my opinion would be on it. To be honest, look, they played some good football. Micheál Bannigan had a good game. Jack McCarron had a fairly good game as well with 5 points and a 2-pointer. So look, yeah, they've good footballers, but at the same time, Louth scored 27 points in this game. Which is a huge scoreline to be conceding. Monaghan with 218 themselves, the 2 goals probably keeping them in it.
If we move on to the man of the match performance by Darren MacDonald, I think 21 years old, if I'm not mistaken, and absolutely superb. Shane, Jim, I'll get your thoughts on his performance.
Yeah, definite man of the match. He was absolutely unbelievable. Of one of the best performances from a centre back I've seen in a very long time. And look, he was a major factor in the reason Louth got over the line and won the game. And look, just to quickly just speak about, I suppose, the rest of the Louth team, their energy, and Darren MacDonald, I suppose, was the prime example of that. Their energy made up for the man missing for most of the game. And I suppose that having a week off probably helped them. It was Monaghan's third game in 3 weeks, so Louth just had more energy, and that's what got them over the line. But again, Darren MacDonald, deserving man of the match, and absolutely outstanding.
I want to move. I want to just the way he was able to keep Stephen O'Hanlon on the game. No, I made a mistake last week. I said it was Stephen Mooney one against Westmeath. It was Stephen O'Hanlon. It was brilliant. And he was bar the goal. He obviously got the goal punched into the net. Bar that, you didn't really see much of him. I thought. Do you think that was we'll go to Shane King here. Do you think that was a key to victory for Loudon, keeping Stephen O'Hanlon quiet as he did? He only got a goal, and then that was it.
Yeah, probably. Look, to win any game, you have to be keeping those lively forwards quiet. Same if you're coming up against Galway or Kerry or Dublin or whatever team it is. It's that inside forward line that you have to keep contained. And in fairness to Louth's defence, they did a good job on it. And I think it was just the Louth's pace probably was what kept them ahead of Monaghan, and I think that's probably the key to Louth's success in that game. And as I said, if you can keep that inside forward line quiet, you have a great upper hand in any game.
Yeah, because I think this is a good. I think we can move on. We'll go on this talking point now. Talking about keeping about inside forward lines. Mayo versus Cork. The Mayo forward line was absolutely outstanding. You had I have it here ready to go. Ryan O'Donoghue, 8 points. Dara Byrne, man the match. Unbelievable performance from a 19-year-old. 7 points, and then Kobe with 4. Um, I think up to like last 10 minutes, I think they scored nearly all of Mayo scores, the forward line alone. Just we get your opinion on devastating young forward line. Mayo of going. Shane King will go up.
Yeah, hugely impressive from two under 20s. Dara Byrne and Kobe McDonald, two huge footballers. In fairness to them, as you said there, Dara Byrne, man the match, 7 points, and Kobe McDonald, 4 points. Two huge players, and it's a real pity that we're losing Kobe to AFL after this championship season. He's a hugely talented player. Obviously, you can't blame him to be going down to Australia to be making money as a sports person. But yeah, look, impressive performance for Mayo. This was another prediction I got wrong. I said Cork were going to win this game. Uh, but credit to Mayo, they had a very, very good game. I think when we started this podcast, when you said would Mayo make an All Ireland final, I think we kind of laughed it off. We wrote them off. And look, they're a game away from an All Ireland final now. But yeah, look, they have a impressive team. I think their defense probably slightly opened at times in the first half. Cork got in for a lot of goal chances that they just didn't convert. Um, the young Mayo goalkeeper, Livingston, with two saves. If Cork had converted those goal chances, it could have been a different outcome. But at the same time, they kept Stephen Sherlock and Chris Oak-Jones very limited in attack, But overall, I think Cork could be slightly disappointed with their performance coming off the back of a great win over Donegal. I was a bit disappointed with them, to be honest. I thought at times they were a little bit lackluster in their attack. But yeah, Mayo deserved winners, and as you said there, that young full forward line caused huge problems for Cork and was the difference. Coming up against Louth now might be a different story, but as I said, a lively inside forward line. If you can keep them quiet, you're winning the game, and if they're running havoc, they're going to cause you problems all day long.
Shane, 14 wide for Cork. Obviously, as a Munster man, you know a lot about Cork. Seems as a thing with Cork where they kick a lot of wides. Think it cost them big time. It was 14 wide, so do you think that cost them big time in this game?
Yeah, definitely. I was very disappointed with Cork. To be honest, I was at the game before the Kerry game. They were flat. They were very poor, to be honest. They just weren't. They didn't really show up at all. As Shane said, the Cork or the Mayo defence, should I say, managed to keep Chris Og and Stephen Sherlock quiet. But I think Cork will be hugely disappointed with their performance. Look, they seem to have a habit in recent years of once they arrive in a big game where there's a bit of expectation on them, they just completely flatter to deceive and don't show up. They came to the Munster final hoping to put up a performance and possibly really give Kerry a test, and again they just didn't show up at all. So very disappointed for Cork. I'm sure I'm sure they'll be absolutely disgusted with themselves because I think they'll see it as an opportunity missed. But to Mayo, look, they were good. I wouldn't say they were at I wouldn't say they were brilliant, but they were good. They did what they needed to do. And as he mentioned, their full forward line was absolutely unbelievable. And Dara Byrne, I didn't really expect him to play as well as he did, but in fairness to him, he shot the lights out, and it was one of the performances of the weekend.
Especially in the second half, he just like he just wanted. You see, in some players, you get that confidence. It just looked like in that second half, in particular, he just hit a moment after I think it's his fourth goal or something. He was just kicking them for fun after that. Absolutely brilliant. But I want to go to the other forward line or the back line for Mayo. We're just talking about keeping Sherlock quiet and Chris O'Jones. And the Hessian versus Chris O'Jones. What a matchup that was to watch throughout the game. What was your thoughts? I thought it was a brilliant match, if you like. Battle. Brilliant battle.
Yeah, look, I think Enda Hessian's experience told in that matchup. To be honest, yeah, that's all I can really say. I think experience showed there, and a clever defender is just as good as a jinky forward, I think. So, and it was in fairness to Hessian, it's a hard job to keep a talented forward quiet, and I think he did an excellent job.
Yeah, agree. I thought a very good performance by the Hessian, and I know we'll be previewing it next week, but I think he's probably the man that will be on Sam Mulroy next weekend as well.
I think that covers all the games, but if we trying to see if we go back, actually, I want to go back to Dublin Galway. Obviously, last week I was absolutely berating Comingford. Comingford, sorry. Brilliant performance from him. I think his kick out was a key factor to Dublin winning the game. You proved me wrong anyway.
Yeah, the second best goalkeeping performance of the weekend.
Yeah, Shane Murphy, obviously. But I think I want to talk about this real quick. I think we missed it. I missed to point it out. I was talking about how good Dublin kickouts were. Obviously Kerry, brilliant kick out from Shane Murphy as well. What do you think? Do you think this game could be the battle of the kickouts? Who can win that midfield battle on the kickout, that breaking ball? Could that be a defining point in that game?
Yeah, definitely. Because look, both teams have star-studded forward lines, so I think whoever wins the battle around the middle, on whether it be catching kickouts clean or breaking ball, I think it's going to be crucial. And look, I I know Galway looked like they were going to have the upper hand coming into the game the last day around the middle, and Dublin, to be fair, cleaned them out really. But I think Kerry will probably hopefully will have the upper hand. But we'll look more into that next week.
But yeah, I think it's also a feature of the new rules. Like you used to be able to go short. Stephen Cluxton loved going short for Dublin. Now you have to go long nearly because you can't, what's it, the 40-meter arc, you can't kick inside of that. Like, you're forcing your kickouts long. And if you don't have that height in the middle of the field, if you don't have, your winners winning that primary possession, it can be an absolute killer like for teams. So yeah, I think kickouts, even in the new game, more so, not just coming into the final end of the championship. It's the new Gaelic football now. Kickouts are crucial, and if you're losing that midfield battle, you're going to seriously struggle.
I would say you can still get short or to mid-range kickouts off, but the ball has to be on the tee really quick and out really quick. And
Yeah.
I think that's just I think what makes Shane Murphy's performance even more impressive because he's brilliant at it. Just a kind of pinged one out to the wing, mid-range kick out to the wing into someone's hands. He's brilliant at it. But you have to get the ball on the tee quickly to be able to do that. And I suppose that's what Galway weren't doing. And Galway were just going long, 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 and they got beaten around the middle. So that was a major factor in them losing to Dublin.
I actually want to. Now you brought it up. I seen a thing on RT in the preview for the game. They're analyzing coming for kickouts, and he was taking no longer. He was taking average about 5 seconds between getting the ball in the tee and kicking it. Obviously his kickouts were brilliant, and I think you've raised a good point there. I think that if you want to play it short or if you want to find the free man quick, it's getting on that tee as quick as you can.
Yeah, it has to be quick, like, or if you're facing into a set up defense up front of you, it's very hard for a goalkeeper to find someone short.
You get punished if you go short. We've seen that in the Galway FME game. Was it? I don't even think it was
Yeah,
Jeff
he
Davis.
tried to go short to
He tried to go short.
Pike Baker, who was on the arc, and then you get squeezed by two players coming in either side and turned over, and it was a goal for Galway. But yeah, that's one example of a short going wrong. But in that case, it was too long. Galway were set up, and as Shane was saying there, you have to get it on the tee immediately, nearly, to get those short kickouts away because you're definitely going to be caught otherwise.
100% agree. I think it's shown. I think it's probably a big factor into why Dublin are, and obviously Kerry. I can't really think Kerry couldn't really analyze it as much. Just the RT pundit. I can't remember his name. It was someone they were analyzing it on RT, and it made me actually watch it in the game. When in that game, then I was actually keeping an eye out for how quick it was, and it was improving really effective. So I agree with boys. I think if you want to go quick, it has to be snappy, has to be straight on. You said immediately on the tee, ready to go. I think that's a good. I think we can wrap it up for there, boys. I think we've covered well. Obviously, we'll save the preview for next week. But I want to before we end it, I want to going into the semi-finals. Who's your player of the year so far?
It's only one answer to that question.
Go
The
on.
same fella as last year.
You think Clifford? I guess against Armagh, he was fantastic. I but I throw
100%.
I throw Dylan Gainey in the mix for this. I think his championship
Definitely.
today has been unbelievable. Against Donegal, I know they lost, but I can't remember what he scored. He was fantastic in that game. He probably the reason Kerry were in it up to probably half time when after they took away in the second half. He was fantastic. I put Dylan Gainey and up for player of the year. Shay, who would you put up?
I think just David Clifford's intelligence as a footballer is what impresses me so much. Like, you know, you talk about Guinea there, but I think just Clifford, just how he uses the ball, how he communicates on the field. I think, regardless of his scoring, which is just immense, I just think his intelligence as a footballer and how he manages the game for Kerry, I think, is the most impressive thing for me. How intelligent of a footballer he is. Because anyone there's an awful lot of skilled footballers in Gaelic football, but just having that intelligence to use the ball well, for me, is what makes David Clifford one of the best players we have, if not the best.
And sorry to butt in again, but I suppose to Shane's point, if there was one man on the field that Kerry wanted to get on that last kick out last weekend, it was him, and he was the one that got it. I, Going on his intelligent point, he knew the situation and he was clever enough to come out the field to be in a position to get onto that break. and to bring it up into the corner and bring it back out and then get it back and set up the goal. So he's the best footballer in the country. He's probably the best footballer of all time, and in my opinion, he is player of the year. But to be fair, because there is two semi-finals and a final left to go, so I'll try to be fair, and I'll say at the moment my three nominations would be David Clifford, Dylan Ganey, and Niall Scully.
Well, I will bring to Broken. I mentioned Niall Scully came out after the game and said the only reason he's still here is because he still believes this Dublin team can win the All Ireland. I mean that he's been proven. Well, he stepped up big time this All Ireland Championship. But you can kind of see where he's coming from now.
100%. And look, they're in a semi-final against their great old rivals, so anything can happen in games like that. Look, Kerry Dublin is always going to be a tight game, so they definitely can win the All Ireland, and he's definitely not lying in what he's saying, because I don't think him and a few other Dublin players would be there if they thought that Dublin team was finished and that they couldn't win an All Ireland.
Thank you for listening, guys. We'll catch on for another week. Next week we'll be previewing the two games, and we might throw in some all-star predictions. We'll see how it goes. We'll figure out some things.
And the Tailteann Cup final.
Tailteann Cup final as well. Between obviously Wicklow and Down. That'll be next week, so we'll catch you then.